right, so let's go and get started here. So today's topic or topics is DimXpert, SOLIDWORKS MBD, and tolerance analysis. The DimXpert and tolerance analysis have been in the SOLIDWORKS software for a while. Those have definitely been around. And then we'll get into the newer product, which is SOLIDWORKS MBD. I'm Mike Nolte or Michael Nolte. If you've ever called into tech support with either GoEngineer or another reseller. I've been with a couple of other resellers in the past. You may have talked to me. So I'm a senior technical support engineer, so I work on the tech side of things. I've definitely been around in the SOLIDWORKS reseller channel for a while, and I've been using SOLIDWORKS since the 2001 version. So first slide here. All right, so DimXpert. So DimXpert for parts is available in all versions. So standard, professional, and premium for parts. For DimXpert for assemblies, that does require a separate MBD license, and we're trying to kind of let you guys know about MBD, but we're not pushing the MBD license during this webinar. This is more of an informative type of webinar. But if you do want to look into MBD, definitely reach out to your GoEngineer account manager. Some of the other things, well, DimXpert, kind of the idea behind it. DimXpert is designed to do 3D annotations, and there's been some studies done so that you can actually kind of see that taking a 3D object, doing 2D documentation, and then producing a 3D object, and then maybe even inspecting it in 3D, that 2D kind of interface, there's definitely chances of errors in it and stuff. So that's kind of the idea behind where DimXpert is, and in part also SOLIDWORKS MBD. That'll be kind of the middle section here. So this is kind of a couple examples as far as what you might see for DimXpert for parts and DimXpert for assemblies. You can see that we've got dimensions for location. We've got datum, so that's the A, B, and C there in the boxes there. And then we also have GD&T, so geometric dimensioning and tolerancing. So specifically, kind of the one down here in the bottom there. Let's go and take a look at DimXpert in SOLIDWORKS. All right, so bringing this guy up. So this one's already has DimXpert applied to it. I'm going to go through it just so you can kind of see how this one was applied. But this kind of is that model. We have some dimensions that are kind of pertaining to that orientation, dimensions to the side orientation, and then also dimensions up to the top orientation there. I'm going to go and erase these just so that we can kind of create these fresh here. I'm just going to erase them all. Oh, and where I'm at. Regular feature trees is the part icon. I'm going to jump over to the DimXpert Manager tab, so the little bullseye arrow there. All right, so we're going to go and get rid of these. Delete. Yes, I'm going to get rid of them. And the ones that you saw there were actually done using the auto dimensioning scheme. You can get to that in two different ways. You can either hit the auto dimensioning here on the toolbar there, or the DimXpert Manager, or you can also get into the MBD Dimensions tab. If you're running one of the older versions of SOLIDWORKS, this might actually be called DimXpert, so they renamed that tab on the Command Manager a little bit ago. So either spot gets you into the same place there. We're going to do a prismatic part because that's what this is. We're not doing a turn part. I'll first go through a plus minus example, and then I'll come back and I'll do a geometric one. Linear dimensioning scheme. I'll go and set my datums here. So I'll go and do that as my primary. Switch down, I'll do that as my secondary. And I'll go and do that as my tertiary. This may not match what was on that slide, but it all depends on what is your most important to least important as far as datums go. We're going to go and let it do all features for detection there. And I'll go and hit OK there. And from there, it's going to go through and add all the dimensions on there. It turns green, indicating that it's fully defined. and that's actually done by this little icon right here, this little plus minus with the eyeball on there, so you can toggle those on or off. If I ended up with something that is overdefined, I would end up with something that's red, which I'll show you that here in a moment. Or if I had something that is yellow, then it's underdefined. There's always going to be a little bit of cleanup. It's never going to perfectly lay these out, so that's just the nature of the beast. It is one of those things that you may have to do some cleanup. And so each of these dimensions, what it does is it actually adds it to an annotation plane. And for those of you that haven't worked with annotation planes, it shows up in two spots here. One is on the regular feature tree. So annotation, or I guess annotation planes or annotation views, I kind of use them interchangeably, but we have front, top, and right are the defaults, and then also, again, this is kind of in the newer ones, newer being the last 5 versions, there's a note area annotations view. So if I ended up hiding one of them, I can actually hide that particular set of dimensions. So that was hiding the front one. I can go and show it again. You can create additional annotation views by right-clicking over the annotations and say insert annotation view. So if you've got a really complex part, you can actually add multiples from the right view and multiples from the top view, or whatever orientation you need. You can even pick a face for an orientation and add those additional views and then toggle which one is visible. So you can get really detailed parts still documented out with those additional annotation planes. The functionality that's on the regular feature tree you can actually still do here as well too. So insert annotations view there. All right, so that's the first method. Let's go and manually add something here. So actually, let's do a location. Let's do a location from here to here. And we'll go and place that off to the side there. So it's actually over constraining that particular feature there. And if I turn on my colorization again, we'll actually see that that's over defined now. It shows up in red. If I go and get rid of some of these dimensions, and then turn on my colorization there, then we can see that those are underdefined now. So there's not enough information for those particular features. So we can use that to kind of easily determine if there is enough or not enough. That's a little arbitrary because it is the software thinking for us. Keep that in mind, because there may be scenarios where you your machine shop or whoever you're sending this out to may actually need more or less information added to a particular model though. So, all right, so let's go and keep on moving forward. I'm going to go and get rid of this set. And I'll go and do another quick set here. I'm going to do geometric this time instead of plus minus, just so you can see that method. And as far as the doing GD&T or geometric dimensioning, tolerancing, or fully detailing out a model, the tutorials that I'll be talking about a little bit later, those don't actually ever teach you how to actually do the GD&T, but they do go into how to use the software. So definitely look at a resource out there, or even contact your GoEngineer account manager. We might have a resource that we can point you out to as far as training outside of our software for learning GD&T. So that's the other method using the geometric. So there's more GD&T callouts there, or geometric tolerance dialogues there. All right, so that's that one. Just to keep everything moving forward here, I'm just going to bring up an assembly one here real quick. The assembly one. So same basic idea. It's just you do all your detail stuff out at the part level, and then any information that pertains to the assembly. And some of these may not even be correct. Some of you may be laughing at the fact that one of these that I put on there is not correct as far as a method for getting it a fit tolerance or something like that. So sorry if I kind of incorrectly labeled one of these, but it's more or less giving you the idea that you can add this stuff at the assembly level. Again, this is if you own a MBD license. Regular SOLIDWORKS Standard, Pro, or Premium does not have the ability of doing the dimensioning at the assembly level, or the DimXpert at the assembly level. It does require that MBD license. All right, so let's go and go back to the PowerPoint here. And all right, so next slide. So resources. If you've never been out to the my.solidworks.com website, go out to that site. There's a catalog, so training catalog. Do a keyword there of DimXpert, and there's, gosh, I want to say there's half dozen or so, or maybe even a dozen different training videos on DimXpert. If you have your SOLIDWORKS seat current on maintenance, then you'll gain access to most of those videos. There are a few that you do have to buy an extra or a pro version of the my.solidworks site, and that's not pro SOLIDWORKS, that's pro my.solidworks.com license, and it basically gets you a year into the premium videos there. But all right, so let's go and move on to the next topic here. So this is MBD. So MBD is based or built off of DimXpert. So that's why these are kind of tied together here. So MBD is basically taking, let me back up here, model-based definition. That's what MBD is. It's basically taking the information of DimXpert and kind of going the next step there, being able to give you outputs for it. 3D PDFs, being able to do there's a couple other formats out there like eDrawings, or there's a new format, Step 242. So that's kind of where SOLIDWORKS MBD is. I've run into a few customers that were requested to quote stuff for military customers, and basically they needed MBD type level of documentation, 3D documentation for their PMI, their product and manufacturing information. But so that's kind of the direction of why MBD would be another license to kind of take a look at as a sister product. So behind there is a couple of examples of the 3D PDF. So let's go and actually look at those two models in SOLIDWORKS here. All right, so let's go and get those guys open here. So same basic idea that we would use DimXpert dimensions to add to this model. So we'd go through and add dimensioning and that type of stuff. MBD, though, allows us to do an additional level of creating or storing these views. So I can actually create a view, and again, that's this little tab down here at the bottom left there. So I can create views, and those store which annotation planes are active and which ones aren't. So I could say, okay, show me just the stuff from the top, and I'm storing that as a view, just the stuff from the front. And again, MBD is that capability. There is one extra little kind of nifty feature while you're in SOLIDWORKS. It's this dynamic annotation view. Again, part of the MBD toolset. This one's set up so that as I rotate the model, it's only going to show me the dimensions of that orientation. If I rotate to a different orientation, it's going to go and show me the annotations of that view. So it's actually very dynamically adapting to what's visible. So there's nothing on the back annotation view, but I would have some on the top there. So kind of nifty little things there. With that dynamic and the ability of storing these views there. You can save out a part file as a 3D PDF or an eDrawing or a Step 242. I'll go and open up the 3D PDF here so you can see it. One sec. So this is a 3D PDF that has been saved out from SOLIDWORKS using the MBD add-in. So I have all the different little views down here at the bottom. I've got little arrows, and keep in mind this is Adobe Acrobat that we're looking at this document. And it is true 3D, so I can actually zoom into it. So right mouse button to rotate, both left and right mouse button to do the pan, and then scroll wheel also does the zoom too. The right mouse button does the zoom. Click on another view. I can actually look at the model in Adobe. So anybody that's got Adobe, when you first open up a 3D PDF, it will pop up with a little banner saying, "Hey, do I trust it?" If I was installing Adobe out on the shop floor, I would probably go the extra step of going into the Adobe Reader preferences and there's an extra setting here under 3D multimedia to enable the playing of 3D content. So if you turn that on, then you can open up 3D PDFs without having to accept it every single time. But so that's a part file that was saved out as a MBD 3D PDF. So let's go and open an assembly here. Same basic idea. I can go through and I can go and add either reference dimensions or DimXpert dimensions. So if I wanted to, let's see, let's switch to one of the views that we have here. So maybe a right view. Same way I was putting them on in DimXpert, you'd be able to do that here in the assembly level. And then from here, it's just a matter of, publish to 3D PDF, which does bring up one other part, is that title block or that template that you saw here in a moment ago for the part file. You can actually customize that, so you can put your own company logo on there, organize how big the view is. All that type of stuff can actually be done with the template editor. Let's see here. Let me go and open up the 3D PDF of the assembly here. So same basic idea as the part. Some extra caveats though is one of the things you could do for a template file for your assemblies is you could actually have the bill of materials set up on there. You don't have to have just a single page. You can have like different pages in your PDF stack, so you can actually definitely navigate that so it makes the most amount of sense there. Let's see, let's go and bring this guy up here. So as far as the image quality goes, I kind of glanced at one of the questions here. The image quality is dictated essentially based off of the zoom state of the document and a little bit of the format that Adobe reads. So I guess as far as increasing the clarity, that has gotten better with the newer versions. I do see that you're using 2015. I do know that that's gotten a little bit better in the newer versions. And then the other thing is, well, what zoom state you actually have the view set to. So as I zoom closer, it does get a little bit more clearer and crisper and that type of stuff. And I guess the other thing too is I'm running Adobe Reader DC. So the one of the more current versions of Adobe Reader, that also could dictate that a little bit too. So let's see, another question. Adobe Acrobats. I believe it's, I want to say I've seen it actually for the last probably like 10 years or so. For which version of Adobe Acrobat versions will do 3D PDFs. It's been around for a while, a lot longer than most people realize. Outside of SOLIDWORKS MBD, you can actually take a regular part or regular assembly and do a save as. We'll just do save as open there. But in the save as dialog, I don't know if you've ever done this or not, but you can save a part or an assembly as a Adobe file. So if I can find it there it goes. And then you just turn on save as 3D PDF. That being said though, there's a fair amount of the dimensioning and GD&T stuff that's going to get stripped out with this format from the save as dialog. So it's definitely one of those things that the MBD does give you a little bit of a more of an edge there. But all right, so let's see. All right, so MBD. So same basic website again, my.solidworks.com. Keyword MBD there. Looks at the time that I looked at it a couple of days ago, there was 12 classes currently listed for MBD, and some of those are kind of crossovers with DimXpert. And there is also like a learning plan, which kind of turns into a playlist of kind of which ones you should do first and which ones you do later. And though taking these classes, you don't need to actually have a MBD license to view the videos. You do need a SOLIDWORKS seat current on maintenance so that your customer portal login is current. But it's, you could maybe even preview it in a training sense and see if it's a good fit for you or not. This is a quick little matrix here as far as with or without MBD. So I just kind of wanted to bring up some of the differences there and that type of stuff. So 3D PDF is there, but things can't be, you can't get the thumbnail views, you can't do customize the title block, and also some of the annotations. Step 203, 214, those are kind of generic 3D formats. Those you can do with or without MBD. That's not an issue. The 242, so if that is a requirement for a customer or a vendor of yours, then yeah, that's definitely an MBD thing. The eDrawings export, I'd actually need to test this because I think there is a subtle difference between with MBD license and with not. I think there is some additional stuff that exports with MBD, but again, I'd have to go back and test that. But all right, so tolerance analysis. So why does tolerance analysis fit into the other two topics? So the other two topics are DimXpert and SOLIDWORKS MBD. So the reason tolerance analysis fits into this webinar is the fact that it uses DimXpert dimensions to do the tolerance stack up. And the idea behind tolerance analysis is to kind of give you an entry level kind of quick stack up of parallel tolerance stacks. Essentially, if I have parallel or perpendicular kind of analysis that I needed to do, then it's a great tool to kind of quickly run through that. Tolerance analysis, though, is part of SOLIDWORKS Premium. So if you don't have SOLIDWORKS Premium, you won't have the add-in for that. So be aware of that. And tolerance stack up. So it's basically finding min and max, like worst case scenarios, off of whatever the tolerance of that particular part is. So that's kind of the idea behind it. All right, so let's see here. Let's go and bring up another instance there of SOLIDWORKS. All right, so I'm going to open up one of these parts here just so you can kind of see the idea behind the tolerance stack up that we're doing here is the clearance between the two jaw plates. So one's notched, the other one's it's got an opening there for the notch to go in there, essentially a pipe clamp. But so I'll go and open up one of the pieces here, and this one has 3 datums, so A, B, and C there. And then it's also got a tolerance on the opening, and then a geometric tolerance for the opening itself relative to the datums, and we're essentially saying a perfect model there. So 0 for the max material condition there. So those are showing up in the DimXpert tab there. So that part's been set up with that. The base has also been set up with a tolerance. So we have the base there, so it's got a limit. So limit, min, so both negative values there. In this case, we're wanting to make sure that that always stays below the nominal, and then the datum there on the top for A. But so the rest of the parts in the stack up actually do also have DimXpert dimensions as well. I've already run the study, which I'll walk through the different screens here in a moment, just so you can kind of see the selection here. But I want to point out that it is an add-in that you have to turn on. So SOLIDWORKS tolerance analysis, if you're using like a network license, it would pull a premium license. If you're running standalone, you'd have to have SOLIDWORKS Premium. And you can certainly upgrade your seat from SOLIDWORKS Standard or Pro to get to Premium SOLIDWORKS. So add-ins and then tolerance analysis there. So that's turned on. And when you have a study stored in a tolerance or an assembly, the other users can still see the results. They just can't edit the tolerance analysis without that add-in turned on. So, all right. So let's see here. Let me back up a couple of strings here so you can kind of see the setup. Measuring from, I rotated around, picked the opposite side of this one plate, and then measuring to, I'm essentially picking the inside of the part there, kind of giving the range of where it's supposed to be at. So min there, and I'm going across a Z direction, so relative to Z. And then second screen is basically doing, and they kind of give you the steps up here. So measurement at the top for the first one, Sibley sequence. So the base is the key player, and then we kind of just build up the sides. So support 2, jaw 2, support 1, jaw 1. So that's kind of the build up there for the sequence. And then here we kind of designate or tell the software what's more important and what's less important. So for support 2, datum A is more important, so that's 1. Datum B is the second importance, which in most cases that's usually going to be the case. You always label datum A as the one of the most detail. Same thing with 2 here, so we got an A, B, and C, so as far as key players, and it's pulling the DimXpert stuff, and it's also pulling in some of the mate information, so be aware that it is actually paying attention to the assembly mates for this. Through the rest of this, we've got A and B there, and then this one just had some planes as far as, well, it's the datums that we specified in that part for jaw 1 there. So from here, we're looking at the results. So the results is basically giving us, okay, what's the min condition, what's the max condition, which, yeah, I think something's off there. I think the min condition shouldn't be a negative value. There's probably something I mispicked, but, and then you can also say maybe one of the features isn't originally what you wanted it to be. Maybe you want that to be a little bit tighter and you want to go 1.5 or something for the perpendicular versus the surface finish there. And you can tell it to recalculate. We'll end up with a new stack up there. So we can make some changes to the contributors here at the results page. And then the final thing is you hit the results, and then we're able to get an Excel file out of that, which I'll go and just open that up here real quick. And this is one I saved out already, but the tolerance stack, so min, max, worst case, that type of stuff. I don't know if this report can be customized before the output, but you could certainly change it after the output because it is just an Excel document. And well, be able to file that along with the assembly that at least an entry level or a base level tolerance stack up has been done on the assembly there. Let's see, let's go back to the PowerPoint. So there are some tutorials built into SOLIDWORKS itself. So if you go to the help menu, SOLIDWORKS tutorials, I typically will click on the all SOLIDWORKS tutorials, and then you'll see there's one for DimXpert, tolerance analysis, and SOLIDWORKS MBD. There is a class that GoEngineer has the ability of teaching with a book for SOLIDWORKS MBD. So it covers a little bit of DimXpert because that's needed for SOLIDWORKS MBD. And then we also have the MBD portion in that class. I don't know if it's a 1-day or 2-day class, but definitely reach out to your GoEngineer account manager and check to see when one of those is coming, or you could also check on the website. But if there's one not on the calendar, you can certainly request it. Let's see here. Oh, and then my final slide there. So there's those links that I had there at the beginning.